The winning blueprint presents.
And you are in the lab room. I am your host, Lou. Welcome back for another episode as we continue on our two-a-day quest to wrap up the whole entire NFL with these lab reports, trying to get you ready for the 2012 season. Last night, it's Tuesday, so there was a game last night between the Oakland Raiders and the Dallas Cowboys. Wasn't much to see. Not a lot of points being scored. Again, first preseason game, a lot of guys injured, coaches trying to fill out their players. Really not much to see in some games. This was one of them. One thing you can take from this game, Darren McFadden looked good. Couple of carries, couple of big runs, a nice little catch for 18. McFadden looks like he's in midseason form. If you're a Raiders fan, you need him to stay healthy this year. If he can do that, the Raiders a couple of years ago were among the league leaders in rushing yards, and he was a big part of that reason why. If he can stay healthy, the Raiders can find ways to stay in the games because of the run game. He's a big home run threat every time he touches the ball, and the Raiders need him to stay healthy for them to have any chance to compete in the AFC West this year. So that was the only game. It wasn't much to take from the Cowboys, and obviously they need a third receiver. No one has stepped up and assumed command of that position yet. And, I mean, they have a lot of things going on. They had offensive line troubles last night. The Raiders got through, quite easily and got to Tony Romo, forced him out of the pocket, slung him down a couple of times. If you're a Cowboys fan, you don't want to see that. But they had David Arkin in there, and he's not even really a center. He's a guard. So they're mixing things around on that offensive line. And look, like I've said before, the Cowboys are going to be a different team this year. That whole line is being revamped. 4 out of the 5 positions on that line are going to be different. Game 1, you look at the left guard and the right guard position. They went out and addressed that through free agency. Nate Livings from Cincinnati and Mackenzie Bernardo from Carolina. Those are your starting guards. I don't know if they even played last night. You look at the tackle position. Tyron Smith is moving over to the left side from the right side. You flip that over. You got the left tackle from last year, Doug Free, moving over from left tackle to right tackle. So no one is playing their same position from a year ago. So it's a lot of musical chairs going on in that offensive line. And you saw the dividends of that last night. You saw that the Cowboys' protection wasn't where it needs to be, but those guys aren't probably the guys you're going to see playing week 1. But they got a lot of things to show up along that offensive line, and it was evident and on display last night. Let's get into our first lab report of the day. And we are now finished with the NFC North and moving on to the AFC North. And you start out with the AFC North champions from a year ago, the Baltimore Ravens. These guys are legitimate contenders for the Super Bowl every year, and you're waiting for them to break through and get to a Super Bowl. You feel bad for a guy like Ed Reed. Ray Lewis has one already. A lot of people would like to see him get another one. Once he gets another ring, he's done. He's already said, I'm finished once I get another ring. That's why I play this game. Ed Reed, on the other hand, has never even played in a Super Bowl yet. You could see the dejection on his face at the end of that Patriots game last year when they just didn't get it done. And he sat on the field for about, I'd say, 5 or 10 minutes just with his head down. I thought that was it for Ed. I really did. I looked at Ed, I looked in his eyes, and I said, hey, man, you had a heck of a career. I tip my cap to you. I thought that was it for Ed. I didn't think he had it in him to come back again because that loss was so devastating last year. but Ed was able to summons it up. He wants a chance to play for a Super Bowl, and that's what it boils down to. Ed Reed wants to go out a winner, and with the career he's had, he deserves to go out a winner. But everybody has to do their part to help the Ravens get to where they want to go. Let's talk about their strengths. And when you talk about the Ravens, the first thing you think of immediately is defense. These guys play defense. This team is defensive oriented. Anything they do, anywhere they're going to go, is going to be predicated on their defense. Led by future Hall of Famers Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. And you could also say that in a few years, if he continues to play the way he's playing, Haloti Ngata and Terrell Suggs. These are all guys that lead this defense. And two of them you can say for sure. Surefire, first ballot Hall of Famers in Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. And they lead the defense. This defense is what gets it done year in and year out. They allow the offense to score just enough points to win ball games. They're going to keep the team in the game in the fourth quarter. And again, I can't state this enough. As a team, as a fan, as a coach, that's all you ask for is a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter. This Ravens defense continuously gives that offense a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter. That's all you can ask for. After you go past the defense, the next strength you look at is Ozzie Newsome, the GM of the Baltimore Ravens. This is a great GM. A lot of people overlook the job that he does for the Ravens, but Ozzie Newsome is a great GM. He picks players that fit into the mold of a Baltimore Raven. When you see a guy, you can look at him and say, that's a Baltimore Raven. And these are the guys that Ozzie Newsome routinely picks, brings along, and next thing you know, they got the next Jamel McLean on their team, or they got the next Bart Scott on their team. And they got guys, they keep churning them out. They keep churning out players that produce at a high level for the Baltimore Ravens and keep that defense atop of the NFL landscape. So Ozzie Newsome makes shrewd moves quietly. They lose Ben Grubbs. They go and get Bobby Williams this year. Doesn't look like a big splash move. And Bobby Williams is no longer in his prime. But he's a guy that can step in, give you quality starts at that left guard position until some of these other guys are ready to step in. That's a good move. That's a nice, quiet move that nobody's paying attention to that might pay dividends for the Ravens. And those are the kind of moves that Ozzie Newsome makes. And that's why he's one of the best GMs in the league. Routinely, he makes good decisions with what he does for the Baltimore Ravens. Also, another strength, and this is like an honorable mention strength, is Ray Rice. The offense goes as Ray Rice goes. If Ray Rice is not getting the football, if he's not getting adequate touches, the offense suffers. The Ravens struggled last year when Ray Rice had less than 20 carries or less than 20 touches. They need to find ways to get the ball in this man's hands because he's so dangerous. He's such a vital part of their offense. Ray Rice is sort of like Matt Forte. He's Mr. Do-It-All. He can get you 70 catches. He can get you 225, 250 carries. He can get you 700 receiving yards. He can get you 1,300 rushing yards. That's 2,000 yards combined in a season. Ray Rice is that kind of back. All-purpose yards, Ray Rice is close to or above 2,000 every year. And he's that kind of guy that can bust open a game or bust open a big play because he's so versatile. The Ravens need to make sure that they continue to implement Ray Rice in whatever they do on the offensive side of the ball. Ray Rice is a strength for the Baltimore Ravens. As you move on to weaknesses for the Baltimore Ravens, when you're a perennial Super Bowl contender every year, you don't have a lot of weaknesses on your roster that are glaring that you can say that is something that they have to improve on because they're gonna not make the playoffs next year because of it. That doesn't happen to a perennial Super Bowl contender, but what does happen is things change. Players are released, players get older or have to retire, guys move on. you have people that you have to replace, and you have small problems that can turn into big problems if you don't address them over the offseason. And that's what happened to the Baltimore Ravens this year. In the offseason, they lose Ben Grubbs to the New Orleans Saints in free agency, and that line gets a little bit flustered. You look at Matt Burke, the center, and he had back problems all year last year. He's getting up there in age. He's going into his 15th season in the NFL. He's no longer a spring chicken. So you can't rely on Matt Burke to give you 16 starts anymore. You look at the left tackle position. They went out and got Brian McKinney last year. He came to camp 5 days late. 5 days late, and he was overweight. This is why the Vikings got fed up with him. I'm surprised he hasn't eaten himself out of the league already, because he does this routinely. He's not in shape and not ready to play. So now the Ravens had to take Michael Orr, switch him over from the right side to the left side. They moved him from the left side to the right side because he really wasn't ready to handle that kind of elite pass rush. They don't have a choice. They move him over to left tackle. Right tackle, they drafted a guard, Kelechi Azamel, who they were looking to be that right guard to step in absence of Ben Grubbs. He has to go to right tackle. Now, they drafted a center guard combo player out of Delaware in the 4th round, Geno Gradkowski, who they're looking to have to plug in day one and possibly start for Matt Burke because he's struggling with his back injuries. They just have a lot going on. It's like musical chairs on that offensive line right now. It's a lot of shuffling going on. And you really don't know who's going to start day one. You don't know who's going to start game one for you. You don't know who's going to be healthy. Is McKinney going to get his act together and be able to start? Are you going to have to start Orr over there on the left side? Can he move back to the right side? Kelechi looked good in their first preseason game at right tackle, but Geno Gradkowski struggled mightily at the center position. So you just really don't know what you're going to get out of these guys. And, of course, when you're dealing with rookies and guys with limited NFL experience, it is a crapshoot. You don't know what you're going to get. So that's something that the Ravens are going to have to address, is that offensive line and the issues that they have going on right now. And other than that, the only thing that you could consider a weakness for this team is time. The Ravens are getting up there in age. Ray Lewis is up there in his mid to late 30s. He's been in the league 15 years. You look at Ed Reed. He's been in the league 11 years. He's in his 30s. He's got gray hairs all over the place. You look at Matt Burke. He's another guy, 15-year veteran. You look at Anquan Bolden. He's coming up on his 10th year in the league. These aren't young guys. And these are your nucleus. Terrell Suggs is getting up there in age, and he just tore his ACL. You're looking at guys who aren't spring chickens anymore. The Ravens are running out of time. The era that we're about to usher out of in Ravens football is something that we've never seen before, and as a Ravens fan, you probably won't see again. Ed Reed and Ray Lewis are a package deal. Once one goes, the other one is gone as well. And when they leave, that defense will never be the same. So you have to capitalize on your chance to win the Super Bowl while these guys are still here. And time is not on your side. Every year that passes and you don't get it done, these guys get a year older. And a year older means a year less effective. So how much longer can Ray Lewis fight off Father Time and be the productive just machine of a middle linebacker that he's been for his whole career? You got to ask yourself that. He went and lost weight in the offseason to get his playing weight down, to be more athletic, to be a lot lighter on his feet. We'll see if that helps him. He was still good. He still played at a high level last year. But as you can see, he had a little injury. I believe he hurt his toe and his ankle, a combination of both last year. He couldn't come back from that for 4 weeks. He's not healing fast anymore. He's an older guy now. So what you have to take into consideration is that these guys are getting up there in age, and you have to be able to win before these guys call it quits, because once they do, your chances decrease greatly. Moving right along to camp battles. The Ravens have quite a few camp battles along their defensive line for one defensive end spot, and it's between Art Jones and Pernell McPhee. Now, both of these guys bring something to the table. Art Jones is a menace. He is so strong at the point of attack and a menace in the run game. His ability to be stout at the point of attack, shed blockers, and get into the backfield. The Ravens love this aspect of his game. You flip that, on the other side of the coin, you have McPhee, who can get after the quarterback from that defensive end position. And he's adequate in the run game. He's not like Art Jones is, but he's adequate in the run game. But you get a better pass rusher when McPhee is in the game. So they're going to have to decide which one benefits them the most. Do we put the run stuffer on the field? Do we put the pass rusher on the field the most? They're going to find a way to divvy up the snaps between these guys because both of them bring something to the table. They both bring an element to the defense that is needed. And so you might find Arthur Jones on the field for first and second down and primarily run situations. He might come off the field on third down, and they might bring McPhee in, to go after the quarterback on third downs. They'll find a way to make these guys work. But whoever wins this starting defensive end job is going to see the most snaps between the two of them. So that's why this is a battle worth keeping an eye on. You move on to the next positional battle that you have, and the Terrell Suggs injury looms large for the Baltimore Ravens. He is one of the guys that you could say is the primary pass rusher for the Baltimore Ravens. He's the one guy you could count on and say he's going to get to the quarterback. You can't say that about another player on the Baltimore Ravens roster right now. And so you have to be concerned if you're a Ravens fan about the health of Terrell Suggs and if he'll be available and when he'll be available this season. Again, he's another guy that's a workout warrior. I expect him to be back. Will he re-aggravate it, though, trying to get back too soon? That remains to be seen. Whatever the case may be, they have to find somebody to replace that production while he's gone. And so that outside linebacker spot is now up for grabs. And they brought in a rookie to fill that spot, their second-round draft choice out of Alabama, Courtney Upshaw. And he's a guy that he can get after the quarterback, but I just don't know if you can count on a rookie to come in and be dominant in his first season or even be consistent in his first season. When you're a rookie, your head is spinning, everything is moving so fast. I just don't know if Courtney Upshaw is going to be able to come in and be the presence that they need. I'm going to tell you who the wild card is in all of this. Sergio Kindle, a linebacker that the Ravens drafted about 3 years ago, had that freak accident at home where he fell down the steps and really almost ended his football career. He's back. He's healthy. He's been healthy for a while now. They've been slowly bringing him along. He's ready to get on the field and produce. And I'd like to think that he's probably their most explosive pass rusher aside from Terrell Suggs when healthy. Look for Sergio Kindle to probably get in the mix and be somebody that they could use in third down situations, in nickel situations to maybe come after the quarterback. I like Courtney Upshaw and his ability to play in the run game. I'm not sure if he's somebody that can go after the quarterback, though. They have another guy, Paul Kruger, who they like. He's not much of a pass rusher either. He's more of a Jarrett Johnson type of guy. And so is Courtney Upshaw to me, somebody that's going to set the edge in the run game. And so you need somebody to go after the quarterback. And so that guy might have to be Sergio Kindle. Keep an eye on Sergio Kindle throughout camp and in the preseason and see what he's doing. Maybe that's somebody the Ravens can turn to get some pressure. Another camp battle that is really worth keeping an eye on, a close watch on, is the second cornerback position. And if you're a Ravens fan, this is key for you because the Ravens are an aggressive defense and they rely heavily on their cornerbacks to be able to play man coverage and to be able to force turnovers in zone coverage. So you need your corners to be able to stand up to the amount of pressure that the front seven is trying to apply to the opposing team's quarterback. And this position is not really up for grabs per se, but the Ravens are looking to start to put their second-year man, Jimmy Smith, out on the field. They love his upside. Kerry Williams started at this position opposite Ladarius Webb last year, and he did an adequate job. It wasn't a situation where he wasn't good at what he did. They just feel like Jimmy Smith's upside is so much higher than Kerry Williams that they're ready to see what this guy can do if given a lot more snaps. Can he make plays in the passing game? He's a long, big, tall, physical corner that can run. His athleticism matches his height, so he can move. He can make plays in the passing game. They want to see what he can do if given a chance to start. And so don't be surprised if Kerry Williams is going to have to hold this young fella off to keep his starting job because they like Jimmy Smith and they want to see what he can do. And he played well in limited reps last year. Either way, both of these guys, again, are going to play. Whoever doesn't start is going to be definitely in that nickel package and going to still see time out wide. So you're going to see both of these guys either way. But, of course, whoever's starting will see the bulk of the snaps. So you got to keep an eye on this as well if you're a Ravens fan. Let's go on to the rookie watch. The Ravens traded out of the first round last year. Again, Ozzie Newsome making smart moves. They didn't see anything that they liked and felt like the players that they needed would still be there in the second round, so they traded out. Teams were desperate to get back in the first round. You pick up extra picks. The Ravens did so. The Ravens selected their first pick was their second round selection, Courtney Upshaw, outside linebacker, Alabama. He's looking to come in and contribute in 2012. He will play. The Terrell Suggs injury is going to loom large again over this season, and so he's going to have to play. How effective will he be? We don't know. You will see. You got to watch him in the preseason, see how he's doing. Again, this is somebody that's going to come in. He played at a very prominent program in college, played around and against a lot of elite talent in the college ranks. So his skill set translates to the NFL. How fast will he pick up the defensive scheme, and how fast will he be able to play and not think? How fast will he be instinctive and not have to think so much at that outside linebacker position? You look at their second round pick that the Ravens had, and they took the guard / tackle Kelechi Azamel out of Iowa State, and he's come in and he's had to play tackle, and they really drafted him to play guard in that position that was vacated by Ben Grubbs. But he has to come in and play the tackle position because Brian McKinney is out of shape. He's not ready to play football, and they had to move Michael Orr over to the left side. Kelechi had to step in and go to the right side. So he's in day one as a starter at right tackle, and he's doing a good job. The first preseason game of all the guys on the line, he impressed the most. So you never know. Maybe that might be a blessing in disguise for the Ravens. They might have found him a position on the line that they initially weren't going to try him at. You look at their third round selection, and the Ravens drafted running back Bernard Pierce out of Temple. This is a great selection for them. I think this was a great pick because they need some depth behind Ray Rice. They need to be able to spell Ray Rice. I love the fact that they love using Ray Rice and they get him the ball as much as possible. And I'm all for that. But at the same time, you don't want to run Ray Rice into the ground. You need to have someone that can spell Ray Rice in any given game, on any given play. And you need to have a guy that can be a change of pace from Ray Rice. Bernard Pierce is a guy that at Temple produced at a high level, and he played some really good football, and I like this addition to the Ravens. I expect him to come in and contribute right away, and he can contribute on special teams as well. They have him fielding kicks too, so we'll see what Bernard Pierce brings to the table in that regard as well. I like this selection for the Ravens. You look to the 4th round, and the Ravens had 2 picks. We've talked about one already. Their first 4th round selection was Geno Gradkowski, the center/guard out of Delaware. He's going to come in, and they were looking to possibly plug him in at the other guard spot, at center, or they were going to have to look at him at guard. They were hoping to not have to play him this year, though. They were hoping to be able to let him sit behind Matt Burke and learn how to play the center position in the National Football League. Matt Burke is hurt. Again, go figure what's new. So Geno Gradkowski had to play on that first preseason game. Well, he was bad in that first preseason game. No surprise there. He's a rookie. His head is spinning. A lot going on. He has to make the calls along that offensive line. He has to call out the protection, and he has to snap the ball, get his head up, and block. It's a lot going on in his head right now. He's a rookie. That's a tough transition to make in the NFL, to come in and start with the first unit and not really be allowed to make mistakes. Well, he did so, and he did a lot of them in a big way. And so that's something worth keeping your eye on. If he has to start, that could be a position of weakness for the Ravens this year. Or he could learn on the fly, get better as the season progresses, and be a good pick for the Ravens. Either way, that's something that the Ravens are going to have to address, and soon before the season starts, because the only thing that can hold the Ravens back this year from making the playoffs is a bad performance from this offensive line, and injuries, of course, but that goes without saying. This takes us to the experiment, and I dubbed this experiment, quote the Raven, nevermore. And if you didn't know, the Ravens got their name from the Edgar Allan Poe poem, The Raven. And so I feel like that's a fitting title for this experiment. The Ravens are a team that are looking to take that next step and get to the Super Bowl. And they don't want questions being asked about the legacy of some of their guys. So this is a big season for them. They need to get it done now. Time is running out. I can't state that enough for this franchise. They need to get it done. They need to flat out get it done in 2012. They don't have a lot of time left. That hourglass, the sand in it is running out rapidly. They have to get it done. And this is the season in which to do it. Let's get into their research question, though. Are the Ravens ready to stop shooting themselves in the foot and make it to the Super Bowl? The last 2 seasons, the Ravens have been their own worst enemy in the AFC Championship game. 2 years ago, they had the Steelers dead to rights in that playoff game. They were up 21-3, and they started self-destructing. Turnovers, fumbles, interceptions being thrown. They couldn't do anything right. They couldn't get out of their own way. And even after they found a way to stop the bleeding and get back in the game, they gave up 3rd and 23 to Antonio Brown down the sideline. Inexcusable when you know they have to get a first down. Then you look, after they give up those points and give up the lead, Joe Flacco takes them down the field. What does TJ Houshmandzadeh do? Drop the football. What does Anquan Bolden do? Drop a touchdown pass. They shot themselves in the foot. You look at last year. What do they do? They hang in the game against an explosive offense on the road, the New England Patriots. They do everything they need to do to win the game. Joe Flacco does his job, takes the team down the field, puts the ball in Lee Evans' hands to win the game. And what does Lee Evans do? Not secure the football. They go and they still have a chance to take the game to overtime. What does Billy Cundiff do? Miss the field goal. The Ravens have to stop shooting themselves in the foot. They're there year in and year out to make the Super Bowl, and they just can't get out of their own way. They have to find a way to do the things they need to do to get back to that point. And when they get there, they have to execute and stay out of their own way. Let's get into the hypothesis And before I read it, I just want to put out a disclaimer. I've been waiting to do this for a long time, so you have to excuse me if I get a little passionate here. I'm going to go off on a mini rant. So I need to really get something off my chest. After I do so, I'm going to move on with the rest of this experiment. I'm going to read this hypothesis, and then I'm going to go into my mini rant. Like I said, excuse me if I get a little passionate here. If Joe Flacco continues to be steady at quarterback, and the defense continues to play tough D, and the Ravens continue to feed opposing defenses rice, then the Ravens can finally make it to the Super Bowl. Now, I want to put that aside for a second. Ravens fans, get off of Joe Flacco's back. I'm tired of y'all riding this man. Joe Flacco plays steady football and is a starting caliber quarterback in this league. You ask me, who would I rather have? You give me the option to take Matt Ryan or Joe Flacco. I'm taking Joe Flacco. Get off the man's back, okay? I'm going to tell you how I define a starting quarterback in this league and a good starting quarterback in this league. You need to pay that man, Ravens. Stop BSing around and pay Joe Flacco his money. I know he's got games where he has, like the Jacksonville game last year, where you look at his rating and it's like a 57 and he's putrid. The whole team was horrible that night, okay? Those games happen. But you know why those games happen? Because you don't feed Ray Rice the football. But look, back to Joe Flacco for a second. The way I define a starting quarterback and a good one in this league is when the game is on the line, 2 minutes or less left in the game, you hand your quarterback the football and say, go win me a football game. Can you do it? You know what Joe Flacco has done time and time again? Went down the field and took his team down the field to a win, or put them in a position to win. He's done his job. You look at the Steelers games last year. He took his team down the field against the Steelers in Pittsburgh last year and won the game. 2 years ago, he did the same thing. You look at Joe Flacco in the playoffs. What did he do when they needed a game-winning drive? What did he do? Take the team down the field, put the ball. He couldn't have breastfed Lee Evans any better. And he didn't catch the football. Not Joe Flacco's fault. Worst case scenario, you think you're going to overtime. What does Billy Cundiff do? Miss the field goal. Joe Flacco gets it done in crunch time. I love Joe Flacco. Get off his back. Give him his money. Make him your starting quarterback for the next 7 years. You know what Matt Ryan is? A loser. 0-3 in the playoff. He doesn't get it done. He's a marginal quarterback in this league. People like to give him all the kudos and poo-poo Joe Flacco. Don't do it. You're looking at the wrong guy. You're barking up the wrong tree. I'm going to tell you this about Joe Flacco. Doubt Joe Flacco nevermore. I'm done with my rant. Back to the hypothesis. If the Ravens do everything they need to do, then they will be in the Super Bowl. They have to stop shooting themselves in the foot. If they play good defense like they always do, if Joe Flacco continues to be steady like he always is, if they continue to feed defenses a steady diet of rice as they normally do, they'll be back in the playoffs, find a way to scratch and claw their way into the AFC Championship game. Normally, they're on the road because they don't win enough games in the regular season to get home field advantage. And they're going to have to find a way to stay out of their own way and win that game and get to the Super Bowl. Simple as that. Materials needed for this to occur. Be cool, Joe. Joe Flacco is as cool as it gets in the NFL. Joe is cool under pressure. He gets it done time in and time out. Don't listen to what they're saying about you, Joe. Go about your business of being a good NFL quarterback as you have done for the last 3-4 seasons. Continue to be steady Joe Cool, man. Don't pay him any mind, Joe. Do your thing, buddy. Be cool, Joe. Be cool. A healthy diet of rice. The Ravens need to be serving up spoonfuls of rice to the defense. Feed them Ray Rice until they can't digest any more rice. Keep giving them rice when they're throwing up rice. Defenses need to see a healthy portion of Ray Rice every single game. He's versatile. When he touches the ball, good things happen for the Ravens, and it takes pressure off of that passing offense and allows them to go play action fake and allows Joe Flacco to show up that arm and go down the field to Torrey Smith, who's stretching the field now. Use Ray Rice to your advantage. Continue to give him healthy doses of the workload, and be sure to keep him fresh. You got Bernard Pierce now. Keep Ray Rice fresh. Keep a healthy Ray Rice in the backfield, and he can make big things happen. Elite players lead levels. The one thing about the Ravens that makes their defense so good is they have elite players at each level, and that's what you want. You want to have an elite player at each level of your defense, and that's what sets the Ravens apart. You look at their defensive line, there's nobody better in the business than Haloti Ngata. Nobody. You think you're going to get around Haloti? Not a chance. You look at the linebackers, Ray Lewis, the unquestioned leader of this team. He's leading that linebacking core. He's going to get everything that they've got out of that linebacking core. He's going to get every single drop of intensity, every single drop of athleticism, every single drop of will. He's going to wring that rag dry out of those linebackers. That's what you need. That's what you want. He's going to lead those linebackers. You go to the secondary, Ed Reed is praying back there. He's lurking. You don't see him. He's ducking down behind linebackers so you don't see him, and all of a sudden he pops up, pick. He's back there lurking, trying to make plays. He's a leader in that secondary. He gets guys lined up, and even when somebody makes a mistake, Ed is able to cover for those guys. Now, he doesn't have the same ability that he once had maybe 5 years ago, where 2/3 of the earth was covered with water, the other third was covered by Ed Reed. That's no longer the case. But what I will tell you is that you make a mistake back there, Ed Reed will make you pay for it. And that's what you want. Elite players at each level. And that's what the Ravens have on defense. Offensive line, figure it out. I don't know what you're going to do, Ravens, this offseason to get this thing right for week 1. But you got to figure it out. I don't know what you're going to do. Figure it out. Find out who's playing left and right tackle. Find out who's going to play that guard position for you. Is Matt Burke going to be ready to play center and stay healthy? If not, you need to have Geno Gradkowski up to speed and ready to go. I don't know what you're going to do along that offensive line. Figure it out. You can't allow this to be your Achilles heel for the duration of the season. You can't allow this to linger into the season and cost you a chance to do something special. Get out of your own way, and we spoke to this already. The Ravens have to stop beating themselves. They get to where they want to be every year and find different ways. They invent new ways to lose AFC championship games. They have to find a way to get there again, because it's hard. It's hard to get to the playoffs. It's hard to get to the AFC championship game over and over again. So you can't expect them to just get back there again. It's hard to do that. So them squandering these opportunities, it's really going to come back to haunt them if they never get another chance. But if they do get a chance, they have to stay out of their own way. And that takes us to data. What the Ravens need to do this season from a statistical standpoint to win and get back to the AFC championship game and possibly to a Super Bowl. Joe Flacco, 3,500 passing yards, 23 to 27 touchdown passes, 13 interceptions, and 61% completion percentage. These are numbers that Joe can attain. It's within the framework of the offense. He doesn't have to overexert himself to attain these numbers. He needs to get these turnovers down. He did a good job of keeping them down pretty low last year. I want him to come down a little bit more this year. I like Joe Flacco, as you can tell. I'm a Joe Flacco fan, and I expect Joe Flacco to continue his ascension into talks of being a second-tier quarterback in this league. Ray Rice, 250 to 275 carries, 1,275 rushing yards, 65 catches for 645 receiving yards, and a total of 15 to 20 touchdowns. For average backs in this league, that's not even attainable. That's not even fathomable for average backs. Ray Rice isn't your average back. Ray Rice is a special breed. These numbers right here, these are mind-boggling numbers when you put them together and you look at them as a whole. Ray Rice can do this. Ray Rice will do this. He'll probably exceed these numbers. Again, Ray Rice is a 2,000-yard all-purpose guy. This is less than 2,000 yards. So don't be surprised if he surpasses these numbers. I scaled the numbers back, though, because I like Bernard Pearson. I think the Ravens need to use him this year to keep Ray Rice fresh toward the end of the season. Anquan Boldin, 61 to 65 catches for 900 to 920 yards and 5 to 7 touchdowns. His biggest thing is he needs to remain healthy. He gets hurt often because he plays a physical brand of football at the wide receiver position. He gets injured a lot, but he needs to find a way to stay healthy. He's not the same Anquan Boldin that he was in Arizona. This is evident. However, he's still a quality receiver in this league, able to make plays in the passing game, and he needs to just find a way to stay healthy, stay on the field, because his numbers were a little down last year, and I expect more of him this year. If he can find a way to stay healthy, Anquan will produce. Torrey Smith, he had a breakout season last year. It was his rookie year, so it's not like he had other seasons to fall back on. He had a breakout season last year. I thought Torrey Smith was going to be another Darius Hayward-Bay, another speed guy that's extra fast but doesn't do anything else for you. I thought his hands were going to be questionable because they were questionable at Maryland, just like Darius Hayward-Bay's were. Darius Hayward-Bay has the penchant to go missing in games. I thought Torrey Smith was going to do the same thing because he did the same thing at Maryland. But he stepped up last year for the Ravens. He was a deep threat. He was someone that Joe Flacco could look to when going down the field and count on him to make big plays. You see the Rams game last year. He single-handedly put the Rams to sleep last year. Torrey Smith and Joe Flacco hooked up for about 3 touchdowns within a blink of an eye, and the Rams knew they had no shot. That's what you do to garbage teams. You let them know right off the bat, you don't have a chance today. And that's what Torrey Smith can help the Ravens do. He can make big plays and help put points on the board in a hurry. 55 to 62 catches, 965 to 1,015 receiving yards, 6 to 8 touchdowns. I expect him to probably get to that 1,000-yard plateau, if not just fall short of it. The last year he had over 800 yards receiving in his rookie campaign. That's impressive for a rookie. Receivers usually don't come in and post big numbers in their rookie season because it's a lot for them to pick up. The terminology, the route tree, it's a lot of things for them to pick up and how to run routes in this league, when to sit down in a zone, when to continue moving on, and to get in sync with your quarterback. Torrey Smith did a great job of doing his job well last year, which was get that deep ball. And I expect him to continue to do that in 2012. Ravens tight ends. I like the combination of Pitta and Dixon. They filled in for Todd Heap nicely. And really, it wasn't hard to fill in for Todd the last couple of years because Todd gets hurt. He gets concussions. He's not playing a lot. So it was a seamless transition to Dennis Dixon or Ed Dixon, and Dennis Pitta. And so these guys have been ultra productive for the Ravens as a collective group. They're a tandem that individually aren't going to post 700-800 yard seasons, but together they can get close to 1,000 yards receiving. And that's why I put them together on this list. Ravens tight ends, 85 to 92 catches, 970 to 1,020 receiving yards, 7 to 9 touchdowns. I like these guys. They're both young. They're both athletic. They're both tall. They both go after the football. I like these guys, and I expect them to produce for the Ravens in 2012. Ravens D. If there's one thing that you normally don't have to worry about for the Ravens, it's their defense. They're going to play football. They're going to give you a chance to win. They're going to put pressure on the quarterback, and they're going to force turnovers. The Ravens do everything that you want on the football field, and then some. on the defensive side of the football. So you expect the Ravens to be good on defense and to give the offense a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter. And for the most part, that's what you get every single week. If they don't blow the team out because the defense has been so stifling and the offense has put up points. Ravens defense, 29 to 32 turnovers forced, 43 to 50 sacks. That number is in jeopardy this year with Terrell Suggs not being healthy right off the bat. That number could come down unless somebody steps in and picks up that production until Terrell Suggs is able to come back. And even when he comes back, you don't know at what level he's going to be playing at. So that number could come down, but I put him at 43 to 50 sacks because they find ways to get to the quarterback. 17.5 points a game. That's a stingy number. That's a really stingy number. But guess what? The Ravens are a really stingy defense. They don't like to share. They don't like to give up points. And that's good because the offense is a very meticulous offense. They don't like to score a lot of points. So keeping the other team down from scoring points is big for the Ravens defense and big for the Ravens offense because, like I said, it gives them a chance to win. This Ravens defense doesn't give up a lot of points. And that's how I really measure a defense. I don't look at yards per se because teams can go 20 to 20 and get in the red zone and kick field goals. And if you can do that, you'll find yourself in ball games at the end of the game with a chance to win. Plays of 40 yards given up, 7 to 9. The Ravens gave up 7 last year. They gave up 8 last year. So they were right in that 7 to 9 range. I don't see why they won't be there again in 2012. Independent variable. And really, it's simple for me. I didn't put this under the weakness because the Ravens aren't overly concerned. But I am. I'm not a Ravens fan, so I really don't care. But I need to speak about it because it's a problem for me. Look, is Billy Cundiff the answer at field goal kicker? I need to know the answer to that if I'm a Ravens fan. You need to tell me something. I need to know, okay? Because Billy Cundiff is not somebody that I feel like I can rely on. You look at that AFC Championship game from a year ago. Billy Cundiff missed the kick. He didn't lose the game. I hate when teams or people blame a field goal kicker at the end. Other plays throughout that game lost the Ravens the game. He just put the icing on the top. He put the cherry on top. He cemented the loss is what he did. But still, he had a chance to send that game to overtime. He didn't. He missed 9 kicks last year. He had a field goal percentage of 76%. Not good. Okay? That was like right around 27th in the league. You don't want your field goal kicker missing. Now, granted, in his defense, a lot of his misses came from over 50 yards. I don't care. We put you on the field from 51 yards. It's because we know you can make a 51-yard field goal. So make your kicks. You missed 9 of them last year. I don't trust Billy Cundiff. So if I'm a Ravens fan, I need you to assure me that Billy Cundiff is the guy. If not, get somebody else in camp and challenge his behind because I can't afford to lose games behind Billy Cundiff coming in there and being skittish. That's the independent variable. If Billy Cundiff is better, he makes his field goals, puts more points on the board for that Ravens offense, gives the defense more room to play with, the Ravens are that much better. They're going to win more games if he can find a way to make a good majority of his field goals. 9 misses is way too many. Okay? And he didn't have any kicks blocked. You know, Redskins kicker Graham Gano missed 10 field goals last year. That's horrendous. Normally, you don't get your job back when you miss 10 kicks. But 5 of those were blocked. A lot of that was in part to bad protection from the line up front when kicking field goals. He didn't have that problem in Baltimore. He just flat out missed kicks, whether it was pushing it to the left or hooking it right. He was just awful in that regard, and he's got to address that. If he can make kicks, the Ravens will be a better team for it. Constants. Pretty simple. Cut and dry. Ray Lewis, Ed Reed. Since they've been together, since the 2002 season when Ed Reed entered the league, the Ravens have been an upper echelon defense. And you can take a step back and say the Ravens were a good defense since Ray Lewis got there. And they've been playing ball since Ray Lewis got there in 1996. And they won the Super Bowl behind their defense in 2000. Ed Reed came in and helped the defense get, back to where they were in 2000. And they've been good. They've been constant. They've been a constant force for the Ravens since Ed Reed has been there. Time is running out, though. How much longer are they going to be a constant for the Ravens? You have to win now. Time is ticking. I hear it now. Tick, 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 tick. The hourglass is running low on sand. You have to get it done. But these guys have been constant for you for the last decade. You appreciate everything they've done for you. And you need to send them out into the NFL sunset if you're the Ravens. They've done so much for your franchise. They've put your franchise on the map. They're going into the Hall of Fame as Ravens. You need to send them off into the NFL sunset with an NFL Super Bowl championship. Do your part to help Ed Reed and Ray Lewis get the rings, and in Ed Reed's case, the ring that he coveted and has been playing for his entire career. Conclusion. The Ravens' offensive line woes aside, this team is ready to repeat and go back to the playoffs and make noise once they get there. Every year, the Ravens are among the teams where you can already book them a ticket to the dance. They get there so often. It's really not a question of whether they're going to get there. It's just where they're going to be seated when they get there. What does that ticket say? Does it say second seed? Does that ticket say fifth seed? Or does that ticket say sixth seed? That's all the Ravens really want to know when they go into a season is, what does my ticket to the dance say? Where will I be playing? Will I be playing at home? Will I be playing on the road? Will I have to go through the Steelers to get where I'm going? Did I win my division? That's another question that the Ravens will be asking themselves come end of this season, because I have the Ravens going 11-5. Is that going to be enough to win the AFC North? Time will tell. I don't know. I can't answer that quite yet. You'll find that out in the next segment. But if it is in fact enough to win them the AFC North, that probably won't be enough to get them home field advantage throughout the playoffs. You might need some help from somebody knocking off a team like the Patriots or some other team that comes out of nowhere and wins 12 or 13 games and gets home field advantage throughout the playoffs. If the Ravens could get home field advantage throughout the playoffs, that might be the missing piece to the puzzle that gets them over the top. Whether they do or not, they've been in games and had a chance to win the AFC Championship game for the last 2 years. So that's not really an excuse. They have to get it done when the pressure is its greatest. And I don't know if that's going to happen this year. You don't have Terrell Suggs, Ray Lewis, and Ed Reed a year older. Questions on that offensive line. You don't know what the 2012 Ravens are going to do, but you can be assured they're going to play good defense and they're going to find a way to get to the playoffs. And that is your lab report for the Baltimore Ravens. After this quick break and this lab quiz, we'll be back and we'll get into the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Lab quiz. Lab quiz.
And we're back with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And these guys just don't get sick of winning. They do it so often that it becomes commonplace. You expect the Steelers to win. And part of that is because of one of the Steelers' first strengths. They're a top-notch organization. They do it the right way. They're owned by the Rooneys, and the Rooneys go about it the right way. They're the reason why we have the Rooney Rule in the NFL. that black head coaches must be, or a coach of minority must be interviewed for a position. They're trendsetters in this league. And I love the Rooneys. I love the way they conduct business. And the Steelers are a great organization. They do it the right way, and they do it the right way consistently. It's a reason why they've only had 16 head coaches in their franchise, because they get it. They know that stability is the answer. It's the key in the NFL. You look at teams like the Redskins, we go through 16 coaches in less than a decade. That's nothing for us. That's a cup of tea for us. We go through 16 coaches like yesterday's laundry, dirty clothes. So the Steelers get it from an organizational standpoint. And that's why the Steelers are the team that they are on the field, is because it starts with the organization. You look at their next strength. I love their head coach, Mike Tomlin. I feel like he's one of the best coaches in the league. He gets it. And he displays his demeanor onto, and he projects it onto his players. They come out with a tough, aggressive mindset that says, we're going to be in your face, we're going to play smart football, and we're going to get the job done. And we're not going to have any excuses if we don't get it done. I love Mike Tomlin. If there was a man crush that I had, and I don't do man crushes, but if there was one that I would have, it'd be on Mike Tomlin. I love Mike Tomlin. He's not my coach. But if he was, I would love him even more. I would love to have Mike Tomlin as my head coach, because he gets it in this league. And he's going to be the Steelers coach for the next 15 years, or when he decides he doesn't want to coach anymore. He's young. He's already been to the Super Bowl twice and already won a Super Bowl. So he gets it. He knows what it takes to get his team prepared to play and win on Sundays. And you got to love Mike Tomlin as a head coach in the National Football League. You move on, and you can't talk Pittsburgh Steelers football without talking about that vaunted Pittsburgh Steelers defense. It's like it never changes. No matter what the parts are, whoever comes in, the Steelers don't miss a beat on defense. And it's because their organization does a great job of drafting guys to step in for the next guy once he's gone. You look at Troy Polamalu, you look at James Harrison, you look at a guy like Lamar Woodley. These are your headliners of this defense. They're consistent year in and year out, and they help the Steelers be the top-notch defense that they are in this league. The Steelers are around the top 3 defenses every year. They were number 1 in total defense a year ago. And it's a reason why they're always in games and have chances to win, and why they always are among the division leaders in the AFC North, because that defense won't allow teams to score points. They don't give up big plays. It's hard to run the football on them. The Steelers are constantly good at what they do on the defensive side of the football. Quickly, I want to touch on Ben Roethlisberger. He's a strength for the Steelers as well. You can call him what you want. I call him a winner. He gets it done in the clutch. He finds ways to win ball games. It's not always pretty. It's not always the conventional way. But when you hand Ben Roethlisberger the football and ask him to win you a ball game, he obliges 9 times out of 10. And that's why you have to respect Ben Roethlisberger and what he does and what he brings to the table for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He may allow his offensive line to look bad because he gives up a lot of sacks, because he likes to hold on to the football. But in that same breath, he makes plays when he holds on to the football. That's his game. And you, as a Steelers fan, you wouldn't want him to change that for anything. All he has to do is find a way to stay healthy, and Big Ben produces within the framework of the Steelers offense. Big Ben is a strength of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You move on to the weaknesses on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And for years, it's been that offensive line. And it's amazing to see the Steelers be successful year in and year out with the woes that they have along that offensive line year in and year out. It's amazing that they're able to stay afloat, win games. And a lot of that is in part to Ben Roethlisberger. He's able to make plays when the play breaks down because he's getting pressure. He's so big, he's so strong, and he's a little bit more mobile than people give him credit for. He makes plays, but this offensive line has to be addressed. I know Ben would love nothing more than to stand back there like Tom Brady for 6 seconds and find his 8th option on the play and throw the football to him. But he's not afforded those opportunities because the line doesn't give him those opportunities. So the Steelers have done a wonderful job at trying to rectify this problem gradually. They haven't tried to just throw patchwork Band-Aids on these problems. They went about it the right way through the draft, grooming guys to become the future for their offensive line, and they've done it over a period of time. You look 2-3 years ago, they draft Marquise Pouncey, the center. He's looking like a all-pro, all-decade type center for the Steelers for the next decade or 15 years. They draft him. You look at their draft this year, they went out, spent a first-round pick on the guard, David DeCastro from Stanford. He's looking like a plug-and-play guy from day one. And then you go and you move on to their second-round choice. The tackle, Mike Adams from Ohio State, another guy that they're looking to come in, play from day one, be their left tackle of the future. That's how you do it. You bring guys along, you put them in, and you hope that they're who they say they are, and you put them in and you allow them to grow with the offense. And that's what the Steelers need to do. They need to address that offensive line, and they've done so. But it's been a weakness, and it's going to continue to be a weakness until these guys come in and prove that they can play at a high level in the NFL. You also look at the Steelers last year, and they're such a good defensive team that turnovers really don't matter for them. They don't have to get turnovers because you're going to punt the football. You're going to punt the football, whether it's 3 and out or you put together a small drive, get a couple of first downs, and then have to punt. They're going to get you in the long run. They're going to force you to punt the football. So turnovers aren't a big deal for them. But if you're the defensive coordinator for the Steelers, Dick LeBeau, you want turnovers. You want to turn teams over. You want shorter fields for your offense. And so the Steelers did a bad job of that last year. That was a weakness for them. They only had 15 turnovers that they forced last year. They have to be better at forcing turnovers. And again, when you're getting teams off the field 3 and out, it's going to limit the opportunities that you have to force turnovers. When teams are going 3 and out constantly, you're not going to get opportunities to get turnovers. But when they present themselves, you need to capitalize. And I think that's what the Steelers need to do in 2012 is find a way to create more turnovers, get shorter fields for your offense so that they can put more points on the board. The Steelers are so good at defense, though turnovers aren't really a big concern. But, like, again, if you're Dick LeBeau, the defensive coordinator for the Steelers, you want more turnovers because turnovers help shorten the field for your offense, allow you to do more things on defense because they're scoring more points. Now you can be more aggressive. The Steelers need to force more turnovers and also get more sacks. The Steelers only had 35 sacks last year. Now, for a normal defense, that is great. That's a good number to have. The Steelers are not a good average defense. They're not an average run-of-the-mill defense. So 35 sacks for them is not a good number. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that James Harrison and Lamar Woodley were injured last year. They were playing tag team last year. Hey, you good? All right, I'm going to tag you in. Now I'm going to tag you back in. Now they weren't in the lineup together last year. They kept tagging each other back in and out. And so they weren't on the field together. And the Steelers need them and their presence on the field to force the pressure from the outside, to force quarterbacks to step up into that rush when the pocket is collapsing. Now you got a sack. When you don't have that and the pocket is being pushed by Brett Kiesel and Casey Hampton and those guys along that front, if nobody's forcing pressure on the outside, I can just move outside and get outside of the pocket. And so the Steelers need these guys to produce sacks, and they need them to stay healthy in order to do so. If they stay healthy, the Steelers will be back into the 40s where they need to be comfortably, and they'll be there and they'll get production from their front seven, and they'll get sacks. They find ways to get sacks. 35 is not a bad number, but when you're the Steelers, you know that you can do better. So you go on to camp battles, and the Steelers are going to be a different team this year. Not different in the sense that they're making wholesale changes, but they're going to be a different team in the fact that they have a lot of guys that you've known to be Steelers for a long time. They're not there anymore. They've moved on, whether they retired or the Steelers finally moved on from them. They're not there anymore. They're starting to phase out older players. And so you're going to see an infusion of young talent or younger guys coming in. And it's a breath of fresh air if you're a Steelers fan because their defense was getting up there in age. So you take a look at the middle linebacker position, and you think of middle linebackers for the Steelers, you think James Ferrier. Well, James Ferrier is no longer there. He's done. So the Steelers have to replace that production. He was a leader in the locker room, a presence on the football field. You knew every game James Ferrier was going to be in the middle of that defense. He didn't miss games. James Ferrier was someone you could count on at the middle linebacker position, and he had been there for a long time. They have to replace him. You move on to the defensive end position. Aaron Smith hung it up. He's no longer there, and he's been battling injuries the last couple of years. But when he was in the game, he was a dominant force along that defensive front. He's no longer there. You have to replace his spot on the defensive line. So the Steelers have questions. You also look at Casey Hampton. He's still on the roster. He's getting up there in age. Also, injuries are becoming a factor. How many snaps are you able to play him? How much football does Casey Hampton have left in the tank? He's a big man. He's getting older. You got to start infusing talent in there. His snap counts are coming down because the Steelers know he doesn't have but a certain amount of snaps in him. So they got to find guys to come in and play that position. So the Steelers are going to look different on defense this year. But they still have their core guys around them to supplement that defense. And so that's what you want to do. The Steelers do it the right way. You want to have young guys playing in with your veterans that can help them come along and show them how things are done and get them in the right positions to make plays. So the first positional battle that you have is at cornerback. And if you're the Steelers, you got to keep an eye on this position because this was one of the reasons why you lost to the Broncos last year. Your corner position was not where it needed to be. Now, granted, you had Ryan Clark, your safety, out because of that altitude. And if he plays, you win that game. No doubt in my mind. He's a big part of what you do in the secondary. But also, your corners have to be able to step up and make plays. They didn't do so in that Broncos game, and you paid for it. So you're looking at a three-way race at corner. And it's between Keenan Lewis, you have Cortez Allen, and you have Curtis Brown. Now, really, to me, Cortez Allen is the dark horse. He really has an outside shot at getting this thing. I don't think he's going to win it, but the Steelers still like what he brings to the table. But I don't think he's going to win the job. He's going to have to come off of the pace and really impress and have those other two guys really show lackluster performances in camp and in the preseason to get that starting nod. I like Keenan Lewis. I think he has a lot of upside. He's somebody that the Steelers like a lot and think that he might be the answer at that second corner position. Mike Tomlin, on the other hand, likes Curtis Brown a lot. And so he might be the guy that gets the nod. You know, the coach has the final say-so. So these guys are going to have to show what they can do, make plays. Mike Tomlin loves splash plays. He loves guys that flash on film and show what they can do. If these guys go out and make plays consistently, they're going to end up starting. Either way, all of these guys are going to see the field in some capacity, whether it's special teams, nickel or dime packages. They're going to get on the field, but you want to start. The competitor nature in all of these guys, the competitor in you wants to start. And you're going to get the majority of the snaps if you start. And so that's going to be a big battle for the Steelers in 2012 to see who locks down that second corner position. You move on to that inside linebacker spot that we talked about. James Ferrier is out. Somebody has to step in. The third-round selection out of Miami, Sean Spence, is a guy that the Steelers are high on right now. He's making plays in camp right now, and they are enamored with his playmaking ability. He's been drawing praises and comparisons to Troy Polamalu at the linebacker position. That's how good they feel about him right now, and they love his ability to make plays. And for a defense that only forced 15 turnovers last year, he could be that infusion of youth that they need and a playmaker that they could desperately use at that linebacker position. He might get the nod there. However, Larry Foote, the ex-Steeler and ex-middle linebacker, has a lot to say about that. He left for free agency and went to the Detroit Lions. It didn't work out. He came back to the Steelers. He found out that the grass wasn't greener on the other side. But the Steelers said, hey, you have to sit down now. We have guys at your position when you left that took over and are playing well. You have to sit down and wait your turn now. His turn is up. He's waited, and now he wants his spot back. And they said he's dropped some pounds, and he's looked good in camp. And the Steelers like their veterans well-seasoned to come in and play and give them production. They trust veterans. And the Steelers like to make their rookies and young guys wait their turn and learn the position gradually. So I would expect Larry Foote to get the nod. But if Sean Spence and his playmaking ability is too much for the Steelers to ignore, Sean Spence can definitely get the spot at middle linebacker across from Lawrence Timmons. So that's going to be something worth keeping an eye on because the Steelers need playmakers. Sean Spence can be that guy, but they like productivity. They love guys that they can count on. Larry Foote is a guy you can count on, and they know that he was there before, so he probably will get the nod there. You look at a couple of other positions that you have that are going to be battles, and it's backup quarterback behind Ben Roethlisberger. We know Ben doesn't like to miss games, but every now and again, Ben's going to get his bell rung, maybe get a concussion, have to sit out a week or two, or he's going to turn his ankle and not be able to go. Whatever the case may be, the Steelers have had the same two backups for the last couple of years, Charlie Batch, Byron Leftwich. Byron Leftwich has been getting injured, though, but he has the most to offer in a backup capacity when talking about the two quarterbacks. And if he can stay healthy, I think Byron Leftwich is the guy they want to have out there. He has the stronger arm. He has the ability to push the ball down the field. Charlie Batch is more of a game manager. He's not going to wow you, but he's not going to lose the game for you either. You can trust him. He's a veteran. He's been in the league a long time. And so the Steelers are going to rely on these guys to battle for that second because they don't carry three quarterbacks on game day. Both of them are going to make the roster, but they don't carry three quarterbacks on game day. So one of them is going to be the guy that's going to be on the roster. And so I think it's going to be Byron Leftwich. Also, there's a tight end backup position available. You come in, Heath Miller is your tight end. He's your starter. That's unquestioned. But then you look behind him. Leonard Pope came from the Cardinals with new offensive coordinator Todd Haley, and he knows the system. So they brought him in to possibly back up Heath Miller. But they also drafted a 7th-round draft choice, David Paulson, who they feel like he has a lot of upside. He's a guy that can get it done in the passing game, and he's a lot in the mold of a Heath Miller. And they think he can produce for them in this passing game, and he's not a bad blocker. He could get on the field at back up tight end. And so Leonard Pope is fighting for his position because the Steelers already have another tight end who's going to be suspended for the first 4 games of the season. And so there's only one more spot available. Whoever doesn't win this spot will not make the roster. Now, in Paulson's case, he could be moved to the practice squad. So if he doesn't make it, it's going to be unfortunate for him, but there's still football left in front of him. Leonard Pope doesn't make the squad. He's gone. He's not going to be on the practice squad. He's been in the league too long, and so he'll be searching for work. So that's a big backup tight end battle. From there, you move on to the rookie watch. And we've talked about a lot of the Steelers' draft picks. They've been so aggressive in the draft and looking to get players that can come in and play now, which is what you want to do. You want to get your rookies to assimilate into the offense or defense, whatever side of the ball they play on, with these veterans that can line them up in the right spot, give them some tutelage, and help them become the players that they need to become in this league. And that's what you're supposed to do. That's the right way, and that's what the Steelers do. That's why this organization is so successful, and that's why the Steelers are so successful. So a lot of these draft picks, we've already touched on them. You look at first-round selection, David DeCastro, the guard out of Stanford. We already talked about him. He's looking to start day one at right guard for the Steelers. You look at their second-round selection. You're talking about offensive tackle Mike Adams out of Ohio State. Again, looking to be plugged in day one at left tackle. Now, Adams got hurt in the preseason first game. He sprained his MCL. He's going to be out a minimum of 2 weeks. He needs to get back. He needs all the reps he can get. He gave up 2.5 sacks in only 9 plays. If you're a Steelers fan, that's not the ratio that you want to hear, a sack per 3 plays. So he has to get back and get back on the practice field, get back with live bullets being thrown around so he can get his feet wet and become a better tackle for the Steelers. If he's not able to do so, that might be a hindrance on his rookie season. He might have to sit and watch and learn and get practice experience from the practice that he gets during the week, and he might not play on Sundays. You look to their third-round selection. We've talked about him, Sean Spence, inside linebacker from Miami. He's a guy that they think can come in and start right away. They like him a lot. His playmaking ability is something that can't be ignored if you listen to the Steelers and the reports out of camp. So he's another guy that's going to come in, and he's going to get time whether he gets the starting nod or not. He's probably going to play at some point this year. You go to their fourth-round selection. They selected a defensive tackle. Casey Hampton is getting up there in age. They know this, and that's why they're selecting the defensive tackle, Alameda Ta'amu, out of Washington. This is a guy that is a space eater. He is a road grader. They love him. Double teams are hard to stop him. He's a guy that makes noise when he's in the game. He jumps off of the screen when he's in the game, and you're going to see him at some point this year, and you're going to say, wow, that guy is making plays. He's going to be a force on that defensive front, and that's why the Steelers got him. And I feel like that was a steal for them in the fourth round of the draft to get him at that value and a position that they desperately could use his help. He's going to be a guy that you're going to watch and say, they got a player in Alameda Ta'amu, defensive tackle out of Washington. You move to their fifth-round selection, and the Steelers needed this type of player. They needed a guy in the mold of running back Chris Rainey out of Florida. Chris Rainey is a track guy. He's an Olympic sprinter. That's the kind of world-class speed he has. He's a straight-line runner, so he's not going to be shifty and move left or right and continue at top speed. But if you can get him the ball in space and give him room to run, a lot of times people aren't going to be able to catch him. And they needed to infuse their running back position with some youth and with some speed. Noel DeMore no longer there, left in free agency. He's not a burner. He's not a guy that's going to get away from the defense and run and break loose. Neither is Isaac Redman. I like Isaac Redman. He's a all-purpose back. He does it all. But he's not going to beat someone down the sideline and outrun an angle and score a 47-yard touchdown. Neither is Byron Batch. These are all guys that they have in their backfield right now. And even Jonathan Dwyer, who was a fat boy when he came into the league. He needed to lose weight. I thought he was going to eat his way out of the league or eat his way into a fullback position. He cut down on the weight, and he's a viable option at running back now. So there's a lot of people that Chris Rainey is going to have to leapfrog to get playing time. And you can't trust him on third downs to protect your quarterback. But if you can sneak him in the game in a receiving capacity, and he's going to double as a returner in the return game, go figure, he has the speed to do so. If you can find a way to sneak him on the field, he can be an asset in the screen game, in the draw game, and find a way to pick up chunks of yards for the Steelers out of the backfield, something that they haven't been able to lay claim to for the last 5 years. Also, The Steelers had 4 seventh-round draft choices. And 3 of these have a legit shot of making the team. You look at wide receiver Tony Clemens. You talk about tight end David Paulson, who we've mentioned already. You look at cornerback Terrence Frederick, a guy that the Steelers like a lot, but he's raw. He's very raw, but he's going to get a chance to practice and be around the team and get a chance to see what it's like to play in the league, and he's going to perform on special teams. And then you look at tackle Kelvin Beachum. He's the only one out of this conglomerate, this 7th-round conglomerate, that's probably not going to make the team. He's probably going to have to land on the practice squad. These other guys have legit shots of making the team. I just gave you 8 draft choices that the Steelers made in the 2012 draft that have legitimate shots to make this team. That's how the Steelers are running their organization, and that's how you want to do it. You build within the draft. And the Steelers are looking to do that in 2012 and moving forward. And that's the right way to do it. As you move on from there, you get to the Steelers experiment. And I dubbed this experiment Steel Curtain Never Closes. The Steelers defense, a.k.a. the Steel Curtain, of course, from back in the 70s, their defense is always good. It's not too many times you're going to see the Steelers get lit up on the defensive side of the football. I can't tell you the last time I saw the Steelers give up 40 points. I don't know if that happens. Now, the Ravens tattooed them to start the season last year. They put a 30-burger on their head. But I don't believe that was a 40-point outburst. I think that was in the 30s. But nonetheless, that was an outburst for the Steelers defense. They don't give up 30 points often. And a lot of that had to do with what was going on the offensive side. They were turning the football over in that game, giving the Ravens short fields and allowing them to cash that in. You can't ask your defense to be put on the field in precarious situations, possession in, possession out, and expect them to get stops. That's not how it works in the NFL. And so they gave up points in that game. But the Steelers are consistent. And so that steel curtain never closes. They're always good on defense. The show is never over for the Steelers. We get into their research question. Can the Steelers hold off the Ravens in the AFC North and be primed and poised for another shot at a 7th Super Bowl title? With the Steelers, they're not like other teams. It's just not good enough to get to the playoffs. Again, getting to the playoffs is the key. You don't care how you do it. You just want to say, I need my ticket to get to the dance. I'll show you what I can do when I get there. I'm going to say that a lot because that's what it is in the NFL. You just want to get there. There are 20 teams who don't make it to the playoffs every year who would love to take your spot. So just getting a ticket to the dance is adequate enough for a lot of these teams. I just want my spot. I don't care where I have to go, who I have to play to get what I want. And so getting a ticket is important to getting into the dance. But if you're the Steelers, you want home field advantage. You want to win your division. You want bragging rights over the Ravens. The Ravens are your arch enemies. You want to beat them and you want to win a division. So if you have to play the Ravens, because a lot of times teams have to go through the Ravens to get to the Super Bowl. Now, the Ravens aren't going to the Super Bowl, but you got to get through the Ravens to get to the Super Bowl. You want to play the Ravens at home. You don't want to have to go to Baltimore and play them in front of their crowd at M&T Bank. You want to play the Ravens or whoever at home. And so the Steelers aren't your average run-of-the-mill team. Again, I've said that before about the defense. And I'm talking about the whole team now. The expectations for the Steelers, because they're winners, is greater than a lot of teams in the league. You expect them to go to the playoffs. You expect them to get to the AFC Championship game. And you expect them to go to the Super Bowl. And so that's what the question is, and the hypothesis is as read. If the injuries are at a minimum, players step up, the Steelers continue to be business as usual, then the Steelers will be in the thick of things in the AFC come January, possibly February. That's all it boils down to for the Steelers. If you're a Steelers fan, Your expectations are where they are every year. We expect to win. We expect to contend for the AFC North Division crown. And we expect to be in the mix come January, possibly February, in the Super Bowl. End of discussion. If the Steelers take care of business, guys don't get injured, players step up, the Steelers would be in a discussion in January with a chance to go to the Super Bowl in February. Let's get into materials needed. And if you look at the Steelers, there's not a lot that they have to do to get back to the Super Bowl. They just need to be consistent. They need to do the things that the Steelers normally do, and they'll be fine. So let's get into the materials needed. Big Ben, be easy. Ben Roethlisberger is a guy that gives it 110% on every play. And in doing so, he's a guy that puts his body on the line often. If this offensive line can protect him, keep him healthy, the sky's the limits for the Steelers in terms of their quest for a seventh Super Bowl, Ben has to be healthy, though. They can't do anything without Ben Roethlisberger for a long period of time. Ben has to take it easy out there on the field. When plays are there to be made, make them. When it's not, find a way to shut it down and realize that there's another play. Don't go and injure yourself trying to be Superman. All right? Offensive line, get in line. So the offensive line for the Steelers needs to be better than adequate. There's a lot of new pieces along this line that they're looking to step in and be productive day one. And so these guys have to step in and be good. We talked about the offensive tackle from Ohio State. He can't come in and give up sacks on Ben's blind side. They need him to come in and protect Ben and keep him upright. If they want to give up sacks, they can pull one of these guys that's depth from behind him and bring them in and allow them to come in and man up the left tackle position as they've done for the last few years. You know, you can bring a guy off the bench like a Trey Essex or someone of that nature, a Willie Colon, and let them give up sacks. You don't need the young fella to come in and give up sacks. So they're looking for production out of their guys that they drafted. Mike Adams, the tackle, and David DeCastro, the guard. They need to step in and be productive along that that offensive line. Steel City D. The Steelers just need to be consistent on defense. I don't see why they won't be. They always are. I don't expect that to change. There are a few changes being made to the defense, but with Troy Polamalu out there, James Harrison, Lamar Woodley, and your cast of characters, Lawrence Timmons and those guys, Ryan Clark, you're going to be fine on defense. You're going to make plays. You're going to get off the field. You're going to stop teams from scoring. The Steel City D is the Steelers and what they do game in, game out, season in, season out. They're going to be reliable. You don't have to worry about the defense. More turnovers would be nice. Yeah, more turnovers would be nice if you're the Steelers. And if you're a defensive coordinator, Dick LeBeau, you want more turnovers. But if you don't get it and you continue to get teams off the field and continue to not give up points, you're fine with not getting turnovers. You'll take teams getting off the field, but you want turnovers. As a coach, you want to give your defense a chance to cut the field short for your offense. You want to force turnovers, and you want to be a playmaking defense. You want to be a difference maker on defense. But if you're not, if you're just getting off the field, that's fine too. Hey, Todd Haley, you're the new offensive coordinator. I'm talking to you. I'm going to get into the camera a little close right here. Todd Haley, don't piss me off. If you're a Steelers fan, that's what you're saying. Don't come over here and mess up a good thing. The Steelers run the football first and foremost. Don't come over here and get pass happy and turn the Steelers into something that they're not. Don't come over here and be getting in guys' face, being ultra aggressive and pissing people off. Don't start rubbing guys the wrong way and having guys play out of character. Come over here, assimilate yourself to this coaching staff, do a good job. We know you can coach up offenses. When you went to the Chiefs your first year, you were number one in rush offense. So I know you can run the football. Don't come over here with that Arizona Cardinal offensive coordinator mentality that you had when you were a pass-happy offense and don't throw the ball. That's not what the Steelers are about. Don't come over here and mess up a good thing. Assimilate yourself to this offense and don't come in and try to change stuff up, and don't come in and be ultra aggressive and getting in people's face. That's what got you fired in Kansas City. People started tuning you out. You can't be in people's faces all the time. You can't come with that aggressive approach all the time. People are not receptive to that all the time. It wears thin on them quickly, and it's not going to work in Pittsburgh. As long as you come in and you're the coordinator that you were in Arizona, and you come in and you be modest, you'll be fine. But Todd Haley, don't piss me off. You say that if you're the Steelers. You say that if you're a Steelers fan. Moving right along to the data. The Steelers need from Ben Roethlisberger 4,050 passing yards, 24 to 27 touchdowns, 10 to 13 interceptions, and a 63.7% completion percentage. Antonio Brown, he emerged last year. He showed me something at that wide receiver position. He was a lot like Hines Ward, but way more explosive. He was willing to do the dirty work over the middle of the field, but if you blinked, he got by you in the secondary and made big plays. Antonio Brown, 68 to 77 catches for 1,120 receiving yards and 4 to 6 touchdowns. Heath Miller, consistent, ever steady Heath Miller, 51 to 60 catches, 595 to 655 receiving yards, 4 to 6 touchdowns. Steelers running backs. There's a plethora of Steelers running backs. I've talked about it already. You got, and with Rashad Mendenhall being hurt and not knowing if he'll even be back at all this year, you know, Isaac Redman is going to assume the workload. There's no more Mewelde Moore. However, you have Redman, you have Byron Batch, you have Jonathan Dwyer, and then you added Chris Rainey. That's a loaded backfield. Don't know what you're going to get out of them, but I like Chris Redman. He's a steady force back there. He does it all. You know, he does short yardage for the Steelers. He can get you 8 yards in a cloud of dust. I like Chris Redman. They need that explosive element to their running game. They got Chris Rainey. Maybe he can be that guy to add a jolt of athleticism back there. The Steelers will be fine. And they rely on their running game. They're a running team first. Ben plays off of the running game. And I think that's what the Steelers need to do. They're a smash-mouth, hard-nosed football team that predicates itself on running the football first and letting Ben go play action fake and drive the ball down the field off the run game. 400 to 450 carries for 2,000 rushing yards and 12 to 14 touchdowns. Seems like a lot, but the Steelers run the ball a lot, and I expect them to be run-heavy this year with the stable of backs that they have. And if they get production out of them, the Steelers will be where they are every year, and that's in the playoffs with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Steelers D. This is a consistent Steelers defense. You don't worry about them not getting off the field. You don't worry about them giving up a lot of points. What you do worry about them is staying healthy and getting turnovers and sacks. If they can't stay healthy, they probably won't get a lot of sacks. If they don't get a lot of sacks or get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, they probably won't get a lot of turnovers. So they need about 26 to 30 turnovers, and really that's a modest number. That's not a lot of turnovers in the National Football League for a team to create. I mean, at least not for an elite defense that makes plays, but the Steelers don't need to create turnovers. They're a team that gets your opposing team off the field consistently, a lot of times 3 and out. So the ability to make plays isn't going to present itself in just 3 plays. And that's fine. If you're the Steelers, just get off the field, get the ball to your offense. That's all you really want to do. If you can create turnovers, that's great. If you can't, get them off the field. It's just like a turnover, just not as good a field position. Sacks. Now the Steelers do need to get sacks. Nothing is better than 3rd and long. Nothing is better than being able to pin your ears back on 3rd and long and get to the quarterback. You get to 3rd and long by getting sacks on 2nd and long. You get to 3rd and long by getting sacks on 2nd and long, and you get to come after the quarterback on 3rd and long because you put yourself in a position to not have to worry about a run being played. So if the Steelers can get to the quarterback, that will add a dimension to that defense that was not lost last year. 35 sacks, again, is not a bad number. But when you're a team that normally gets after the quarterback, 35 is a number that can be improved upon. And the Steelers are looking to do that with the help of James Harrison and Lamar Whitley. If they can get these guys to be healthy and be the force that they've been in the past, the Steelers will get back into the 40s in sacks. 15.8 points a game. That is a dental floss thin number in the NFL, and the Steelers do it routinely. They don't give up points. They force teams to kick field goals. They get in the red zone. They stiffen. They harden like cement and force you to kick field goals. That's what makes this team unique, is that even when you do finally drive the ball on them, you have to kick field goals. You're not going to get in the end zone, and they don't give up big plays, which leads me to my next number. 40 plays of 40 yards or more given up. 2 to 4. For every team that I've done thus far, the number has been 6 to 8 or 7 to 9. For the Steelers, that number is unique. It is 2 to 4. They don't give up plays of over 40 yards, and a lot of that has to do with Troy Polamalu, and Ryan Clark. Those safeties back there are so smart, yet very instinctive. They don't get beat deep, and they don't give up big plays, and they make the plays that they're supposed to, so guys don't get by them in the secondary and get loose. They only gave up 2 plays of 40 yards or more last year. They don't give them up. It's unheard of for this defense, and I expect them to continue to do so because they're so smart in that secondary. So you move on to the independent variable. And hey, when you're this good on defense, turnovers are not necessary. I've already spoke to this. But if you're the Steelers, you want to get more turnovers. That's your independent variable. Your dependent variable, you get more turnovers. You get shorter fields for your offense. You allow them to put more points on the board. You allow the defense to have more breathing room to be more aggressive. Simple as that. So I move on to the constant. And that's defense and their winning ways. The Steelers play great defense. Not good defense, not average defense, great defense year in, year out. You know what you're getting from the Steelers on the defensive side of the football. Because their defense is so good, they win football games. They win football games because of their defense, because of their running game, and because of their quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger. They are a winning team. They don't know what it's like to lose on a consistent basis because they don't do it. They don't know what it's like to lose football games on a consistent basis. It's not in the Steelers' nature. It's not in their pedigree. They're winners by nature. And that's why the Steelers like to select players from teams who were winners, because they have a winning mentality and they like to project that onto their players. And they like to bring in guys who know about winning. Because that's what the Steelers do. They've had one losing season in the last decade. That's all they do is win. They may not have made it to the playoffs every year, but they didn't post a losing record. They've only done that once. They don't lose. That's what the Steelers do. They win ball game. And a lot of it is in part to that defense. Those are your constants. So you move on to the conclusion. And for the Steelers, it's simple. They have a model of consistency that this league rarely sees. They win games. They do it over a course of a whole season, and they carry that in, year out. They get the job done. Mike Tomlin is a great coach. Before him, it was Bill Cowher. They know how to win games. Mike Tomlin makes this team go. He has them prepared on Sundays to win. They don't make excuses because Tomlin won't stand for it. These guys are what you look for in the NFL in terms of an organization and how to get it done. With that being said, I look at the Steelers, and they got a tough schedule. Everyone in that division has a tough schedule. But the Steelers are battle-tested. It's what they do. It's the reason why they win Super Bowls. They don't tiptoe into the playoffs. They're battle-tested, whether they have to go through the Ravens twice a year, the Patriots. When Peyton Manning was with the Colts, they go through the teams necessary to get to the next level. So when they get to the Super Bowl, it's not foreign to them. When they get to the playoffs, it's not foreign to them to be playing elite competition because that's what they do. They play good teams and they beat good teams. I have the Steelers going 12-4 this year, and really the Steelers are going to win the AFC North, and they're going to compete again in January and maybe into February. They're ready, they're primed, they're poised. If they can get guys to step in, do their job, especially the rookies along that offensive line, middle linebacker, whoever's out there at corner, if they can get guys to step in, do their job adequately, and you get much of the same from the defense, from Ben Roethlisberger, they're going to be right in the mix come January, February. And as a Steelers fan, that's what you expect. You expect the Steelers to be in the mix come January into February. And so that'll wrap it up for the Steelers. That's their lab report. So that's a touchdown. Throw them up. Now, I want to get into a quick extra point and tack this extra point on. The preseason is for grading out your team, looking for prospects, looking to see the players that you're putting on the field who will be on your roster for 2012. You had a game last night with the Raiders and the Cowboys. Not a lot of fireworks, 3-0. A casual fan says, oh, man, those teams are terrible. They're not any good. You can't say that off of the first preseason game. You can't say that off of the preseason in general. You have to take the preseason with a grain of salt. The Cowboys had a lot of guys that probably won't start along that offensive line. The Raiders were attacking the Cowboys up front. They were getting in and getting sacks and getting pressure. The Cowboys' offensive line may not be good this year. It may not. It's a lot of moving parts on that line. But I assure you that they probably won't be that bad where they're giving up sacks like that. Vice versa, you looked at what the Raiders were doing, and you looked at McFadden. He looked good. You look at Jacoby Ford. He was out there starting at receiver for them. I don't think he's your day one starter at wide receiver for the Oakland Raiders. Carson Palmer throws a deep ball up to him. Jacoby Ford's like 5'8". He couldn't do anything with it. It was picked off. That happens in the preseason, especially in the first preseason game where you're trying to work out kinks. And so you can't really put too much stock into it. Don't allow what you see in the preseason to jade or sway your perception of your team one way or another, or another team for that matter. You can look from afar and say that this team doesn't look good. And if it's consistently happening in the preseason, from the starters to the third string, then you know that's probably not a good football team. If this happens from preseason game 1 to preseason game 4, you could probably say to yourself, hey, that team is going to be in trouble this year. But you can't just take one preseason game and think that you know all about that team after watching them one time, especially when teams don't play all of their players in the opening preseason game or in any preseason game for that matter. If you're going to take something from any preseason game, let it be the third preseason game. That's when teams play their starters for a half, possibly 3 quarters, to see what they have, and then you can really make any kind of assumptions that you think you can make after that game. And that's going to do it for this episode of In the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me, and I thank you for joining me on these arduous two-a-days. It's been a lot of information covered, and it's a lot of information. You're condensing 6 months worth of information into 30, 40-minute increments, and so it's tough. And I thank you for joining me. I'm trying to get you ready and prepared for this season and give you the information that you need to know what you're looking at on the field. And so drop me a feedback in the inbox. That address is inthelabroom@gmail.com. Hit me up on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is in the lab room, or on Facebook. Like me on Facebook. I'm in the lab room on Facebook as well. And so that's going to do it for this episode. I thank you again for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll be discussing two more teams in the AFC North. The Cincinnati Bengals, who surprised a lot of people last year, and the Cleveland Browns, looking to surprise a lot of people this year. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. I'm out.